Okay, so Fextra Life has dropped a few videos over the past few days, and the one that grabbed my attention today was one about itemization in Baldur's Gate 3. The timestamp for when he talks about that in his video is 4 minutes and 10 seconds, so check that out after you're done here. The gist of it is that while it's fine to look for weapons with the biggest numbers, it's equally important to see what skills the weapon allows you to utilize if you're proficient in those weapons. The Everburn Blade is the highest damage weapon because it unconditionally adds a d4 of fire damage, but it only provides you with the standard 3 skills that are on every greatsword in early access. Weave will hit multiple enemies, Lacerate will make an enemy bleed for 2 turns, and Pommel Strike will daze an enemy for 2 turns. That means that while this will deal a tremendous amount of damage to an enemy, it has limited utility outside of just dealing big numbers. I'll be making a video covering the status effects in Baldur's Gate 3 because I want to memorize their effects for myself, but Pommel Strike in particular is a defensive ability. You can smack an enemy and hopefully daze it. Once dazed, the enemy can't take reactions, so you can safely run away without provoking an opportunity attack. But oftentimes, lovers of big numbers like myself will simply use it as a bonus action attack, even if a tactical retreat might be a much better idea than the extra 1 to 4 damage you're going to get from a Pommel Strike. After playing different flavors of the Battlemaster Fighter, I've found it to be more than just a simple damage dealer thanks to how weapon skills work in Baldur's Gate 3. With the right weapon selections, you have the potential to fill your bar with as many abilities as a spellcaster, even if you don't cast spells. Whether you play a paladin or might be planning on rolling through the game as a war cleric, your weapon choices are going to be just as important as your prepared spell list. In early access, there are only a handful of weapons that give the wielder more skills than the rest of the weapons in that category. The Ritual Dagger has the Pain Maiden's Blessing, an ability that says after a successful attack with this dagger, the wielder receives a d4 bonus to attack rolls and saving throws until the end of the next turn. If you dual wield this and have it in your main hand, this will hit first, giving you the bonus on your next swing with the offhand weapon, which can improve your accuracy with that offhanded attack. But then it also gives you the ability Blood Sacrifice, where you choose to take a d4 of slashing damage to gain that d4 bonus. You can use this ability as a bonus action if you need the next attack to hit, or at least a buff to your chance to hit. On an archer, you can use this ability on your bonus action, and then it'll still apply to your ranged weapon attack, which can be pretty handy. Sorrow is a particularly nasty glaive. It has the ability Ensnaring Strike, which will deal piercing damage and possibly ensnare your target. This will prevent their movement and deal piercing damage at the start of their turn. With the Polearm Master feat coming in the full release, this can become especially nasty. Polearm Master has a few benefits, but the important one here is that when an enemy enters your range of attack, which is farther away thanks to the glaive's extra reach, you get an opportunity attack. If you choose to ensnare them, they're not going anywhere and are too far away from you to do any melee damage. The Sword of Justice is a great sword that lets you cast Tears Protection, a spell that you can cast once per short rest that requires concentration. This isn't a weapon skill, but it's functionally the same. You can use it once per short rest, and you get a short benefit from it. The concentration requirement will be what turns some builds away from this weapon if they're doing something with their concentration, like Hunter's Mark as a melee ranger. Skybreaker is a light hammer with the ability to use Searing Smite. On a successful hit, the enemy needs to succeed a con save to stop receiving damage at the start of each of their turns. Once again, this is a spell and not a weapon skill, so it takes up your concentration if you choose to use it. I ignored the quarterstaves because casters will use them the most, but there are a few that'll be interesting for Monk, like Nature's Snare or Corellon's Grace, but they still only have the standard topple weapon skill. So even though the Everburn Blade can deal a maximum of 17 damage on its own, if you care about being versatile in a battle, maybe it's not the best weapon after all. Faithbreaker is a versatile warhammer, and its max damage is 10, which is 58% less than the Everburn Blade, but you get 4 weapon skills that you can use on a short rest. Concussive Smash, which will deal its normal damage and possibly inflict daze, which will give the enemy disadvantage on wisdom saves, giving your casters a chance to get an easy cast on that enemy. The enemy also loses their dexterity bonus to their AC, making it easier to hit high dex enemies. And then best of all, the enemy can't take reactions, which means they can't make an opportunity attack if you need to get away to deal with another threat or out of a problematic situation. All of this lasts for 2 turns. Weakening Strike deals a little less damage, but they need to make a strength save or they get disadvantage on attack rolls and strength saving throws. If you're facing a hard-hitting enemy, disadvantage on their attack can be life-saving while you deal with them. Backbreaker is my favorite. It deals less damage but will knock the opponent prone if they fail a strength save. While prone, they can't move or take actions, bonus actions, or reactions, and they have disadvantage on strength and dexterity saves. Attacks on the creature have advantage if they're within 3 meters. And they spend half their movement to get up. I love using this on the big baddies, giving my team a few turns to regroup or alpha strike the enemy. All of those are standard on Warhammers, but Faithbreaker gives you one more ability. Absolute Power will add a d6 of force damage to your normal weapon attack, but on top of that, it can possibly push the enemy back 5 meters. This is Shove with damage. Between these 4 abilities, it's possible to control a single problematic enemy for several turns, opening them up to advantage for the rest of the team, adding up to significantly more damage than the Everburden Blade can do by itself. Now, here's a neat thing about this weapon. Since it's versatile, you can dual wield the weapon as long as you have the 2 weapon fighting feat. Usually, if you put a weapon in the offhand slot, you don't get access to those weapon skills. However, if Faithbreaker is in the offhand, you still get access to Absolute Power. So then you can use another weapon you like with skills that work for what build you're trying to do, and then you have a backup knockback skill in case you need it. I don't have footage of this for Faithbreaker and I don't really want to level that up again, but we can use the Ritual Dagger as an example. We keep the Blood Sacrifice ability no matter what weapon goes into the main hand. Now, with all of this in mind, as release looms on the horizon, it might be time to think about the weapons that work with your builds and how those weapon skills work with each other and the rest of your team. Faithbreaker is one of those for me. On a Battlemaster fighter, disarming attack is a strength save. So you spend a die to hit an enemy with Weakening Strike, and if they get weak grip, you hit them with Disarming Strike to make them drop their weapon. Shove them out of the way, take the weapon, and maybe use it on them to add insult to injury. I'm really excited to find more weapons that seem innocuous but become absolutely brutal with the right build. The myriad of options available are enough to give me a severe case of decision paralysis, and that's a fantastic problem to have in a game with as much replayability as Baldur's Gate 3. But what about you? What's your favorite weapon to use in your favorite build? Let me know in the comments below. And with that, we're done. Like the video if you liked the video, dislike it if you disliked it, and until next time, I'm Space Coconut, and you're welcome.